So it was towards the end of March in 2024, and I was 3 months away from graduating high school. And despite that, I was on the verge of dropping out. Now, for many of you, you're going to hear that and think, this dude must be crazy. That's so irresponsible. He's so dumb. But if you give me a few minutes, I'll explain exactly why and why not dropping out was actually my biggest life regret. Now, first, just for a little bit of backstory, I have always been into entrepreneurship. Since the age of 14, I was day trading, wholesaling real estate, flipping things on Facebook Marketplace. I had a YouTube channel. I tried drop shipping, everything you could ever imagine. I was a serial entrepreneur. And having grown up on guys like Gary Vee, I knew that the traditional, like go to school, get a good job, go to college, I knew that whole path was broken, at least for someone like myself. However, come early 2023, I found someone named Iman Ghazi. And that's when things really changed for me. Because in the past, with all of my different entrepreneur, shiny object endeavors, I would make a couple $100, a couple $1,000, which for a 14, 15, 16-year-old was great. But it was never something that could sustain a full-grown adult in the real world. However, then I learned about this magical business model called SMMA, where you can sell Facebook ad services to local businesses for $1,000 a month. You get 10 clients, and now you're making 10K a month. And the big difference with Iman was the fact that he did this while in high school, which is something that I never saw before. I was always learning from people way older than me, further ahead of me, full-time, all of that. But this guy was different. He did it in high school to a point where he was making tens of thousands a month and then dropped out. And when I saw that that was possible, I knew that I wanted the same thing for myself. So over the next 11 months, I went head down, cut out all the noise, and fully committed to scaling my marketing agency. And I know I'm condensing a long timeline into a very short video, but it was not easy. I lost friends, I missed out on relationships, on events, on my junior and senior prom, and really anything fun that a high school junior/senior will ever get to experience. All I did was eat, sleep, and breathe agency. That and the gym. And it got to a point where there were months on end where I was not sleeping more than 4 hours a day, which is absolutely terrible for you. And my health was definitely not in a good state at the time, looking back in hindsight, but I was ready to do whatever it took to succeed. And lo and behold, in March of 2024, 11 months after starting my agency, I crossed the 10K a month mark. And the crazy thing is, I did this while still in high school. 11 months of hell and sacrifice and just spending money. I got a part-time job just to invest into my agency, and I was making nothing at the time. But finally, all of that work and effort came to fruition when I crossed that 10K a month mark. And the fact that I did it in school too was just absolutely mind-blowing. I was literally making more than my teachers at the ripe age of 18. And that's when the thoughts crept in. What if I went full time in my agency and I didn't have to go to school from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and I could just do this full time? I would be able to scale to the moon. All that high school was doing for me at this point was just sucking time, energy, and killing my sleep and taking away from the growth that was my agency. Once again, to put it in perspective, I was making more than these teachers who were teaching me while working half the time. So I started talking with a ton of different mentors. These were people that I was working with at the time who have done multi-7 figures. I've paid them multi-5 figures to get coached by them. And every single one of them agreed that the opportunity cost of me going to high school made 0 sense. And the best option for my future was to drop out. Now, just for reference, I have very traditional parents. In their generation, the only path to any sort of success was just go to a good school, go to college, and get a good job. So when I brought up the thought of dropping out, they were kind of freaking out. Their biggest thing was that they were scared that it wouldn't be consistent, and also that I only had 3 months. 3 months is nothing left. Plus, having a diploma will always be a good plan B to have. And in this video, I'm going to be debunking all of those myths. And my only hope is that I can help out one person, whether you're in high school, college, or currently working a 9 to 5 and you feel trapped. This video will hopefully give you some clarity on what the best thing for you to do is. So the first concern was that, oh, this might go away tomorrow and it's not consistent yet. It's not like you have a contract saying that you're going to be getting paid $10,000 every single month. There's never going to be a down month and things could just implode tomorrow, right? And it's a fair concern for people like parents, spouses, friends to have, because the truth is business isn't something that is stable. However, the thing that is stable is your abilities to generate income via skills. Now, what I mean by this is, let's say the real estate market, since that was my agency's niche, instantly just crashed and no realtors are making money, no people are buying houses, realtors are poor now, and they're not buying my marketing services. Would I go homeless? The answer is no. Despite the fact that Visionize Marketing, which was my agency, might suffer a bit, that does not mean that my skills that I built during these 11 months of appointment setting, of sales, persuasion, marketing, systems, automations, those skills aren't going anywhere. So even if something happened to my agency, I as a person have those skills with me forever. Meaning that if I were to pivot industries or pivot niches, pivot services, whatever that may be, I would be able to take those skills and provide value to those clients using those skills that I have and charge them money for it. And Hormozi's actually spoken about this in some of his videos, to where he says that whenever you build skills, right? So let's say you're really good at sales. You now have a new floor of income that you're able to generate by having that skill. So even if you're working for a company that, let's say the company goes under, your skill is your consistency. You could go to another company, provide that value via your sales ability, and then continue to make money. So despite the fact that, yes, there will be down months, there's going to be high months, the consistency aspect, my ability at the time to make $10,000 in a month was not a fluke. It was a culmination of a bunch of different skills that I built up over 11 months, which resulted in that outcome. Now, their second reason for me to not drop out was because I only had 3 months left. And for a lot of you watching this now, you might be like, yeah, well, you only had 3 months left. You might as well get your diploma. However, you have to keep in mind, my biggest bottleneck to scaling was time. And school was my biggest time suck. That was 5 days a week. 4 weeks a month for another 3 months. And although 3 months might not sound like a lot to some people, in the business world, time is your most valuable resource. Even a single day wasted hurts your progress so much. And when it comes to school, I was not even getting an ounce of value from it. If there would have been some tangible ROI on actually having a diploma, that's one thing. But I knew for a fact that nothing in my foreseeable future will require it. And they'd always bring up, well, what if this, what if that, right? What if you wanted to become a real estate agent? You'd need a diploma for that. And what I said was I would have to accept the consequences of my actions and understand that those paths are no longer open. However, by going all in on my business to scale it further, not only will that path broaden via the business scaling, but also if I ever wanted to go into any sort of adjacents, such as sales or marketing, I now have those skills of actually running a very profitable business. And to do that at my age with the constraints of school is much more impressive to any business owner than some sort of piece of paper that says I showed up to class. And the other thing you have to keep in mind too, is that those 3 months, based on my current run rate, let alone me actually scaling up and hitting 15, 20, 30K months, was $30,000. So now it's like, okay, is it worth it to pay $30,000 and sacrifice my health throughout that time because I'm managing both the business and school for a high school diploma? And for me to pay $30,000 for something I know for a fact that I'm not going to be using in the future, and worst case scenario, I could always go get a GED, it just made zero sense logically when you frame it that way. And I actually had a conversation about this with a buddy of mine from high school. And recently he was asking me what he should do because he was in college right now because his parents wanted him to be, but he clearly didn't want to do anything relating to college, such as become a lawyer, doctor, engineer, teacher, which in all honesty, those are the only things that you should be going to college for if you truly know that your path and what you want to do requires it. But that wasn't him. What he wanted to do was trading. And for him, day trading was going really well. He had just got funded. He's been profitable. It's all he thinks about, all he's learning about, all he's spending his free time doing. But he was already 2.5 years into college. So his parents just wanted him to finish it. And he was asking me, James, like, what should I do? Like, I know I'm not going to use my degree for anything. It's not what I want to do. I'm constantly perfecting my craft, working on my business, and that's really what I want to do. And I told him that if that's the case, he is literally missing out on tens and tens of thousands of dollars, not just the money being spent on college debt, the opportunity cost of the time that he's spending in class, draining himself instead of working on his trading. And I know this might sound crazy to some people, but you also have to remember, and I told him this, worst case scenario, you can always go back. And that brings me to the third point of, oh, it's good to have a backup plan. In my case, it was high school. With my friend's case, it was college, but it applies to both. For me, if I got hit on the head with a brick and am no longer an entrepreneur and lost all my skills and all that stuff, I could always go back, get a GED, get my diploma, and I'd be fine. And same thing with my friend. If he ever wanted to do something that did require a college degree, then he would have to say, okay, I chose to drop out before, let me go back to school and finish my degree. So that's the first thing with a backup plan is Worst case scenario, you could always go back. And this is the thing that my parents really struggled to grasp. Nowadays, a backup plan is not having a degree or diploma. Almost 60% of degrees don't go to use anyways. And in a job market where everybody has a degree, you aren't special because of one. The only real backup plan and the only real plan B that anyone has is their skills. And this is something that I alluded to before, but your skill set as an entrepreneur, whatever your skills are, that is your plan B. And for me, who ran an agency, that's a lot of them, because to run an agency, you need everything A to Z. You need to know how to market. You need to know how to set appointments. You need to know persuasion and sales, how to convince strangers on the internet to give you money for a service, which you then have to fulfill. You have to manage team. You have to manage operations. You have to manage people. You have to manage clients. And to do all of that and learn all of that to get to a point where I had a 6-figure run rate while also managing high school means that there is zero chance that no matter what happens to my agency, I will never go broke. And 2 years later, I can confidently say that is absolutely the case. I'm now at a point where I'm not only making multi 5 figures a month, but also I have opportunities come to my lap on a weekly basis. And I'm not talking about surface level opportunities. I'm talking about entrepreneurs who are doing multi 6 figures a year, practically begging me to come run their ads, implement AI for them, partner with them on their business. And there's some of these opportunities that have actually taken them up on and now are some of the most valuable partnerships you could ever dream of.
Bro, like you meeting me with the software and it's like the whole and the AI just becoming the thing right now while I'm in this position and we've got the team and we've met you and I've got Mate and all that. I've got the resources, I've got the financial backing, I've got the network, I've got literally everything. Like if you said to me, Elliot, we need 5 million tomorrow to do this, I could get it raised tomorrow. Like if it was a good enough reason, like we have the funds. Like, so money isn't an object. The network isn't an object. The personal brand isn't an object. The skills aren't an object. It's the people.
And because of all of that, the connections I've made, the skills that I've built, the ability to generate income, paired with the fact that if I ever wanted to, I could always go back. That is the reason why at the age of 18, I wanted to drop out of high school 3 months before graduating. And unfortunately, at the time, because I didn't want to go homeless and my parents had a little bit too much leverage on me, I didn't end up doing it. But if I could go back and tell my younger self anything, it would be to take the leap. And for any of you right now who are at a 9 to 5, who are in college and even high school, once you get your business to a certain level, that is your thing. That is what you're going to do. And you have the skill set to never go broke again, then it might be time for you to take the leap of faith, make the jump, and go all in.